Amigos, this is Joe Baca. Hola, how are you? This is Letting Go. This is the first episode. Thank you so much for joining me. And this series is about a lot of different things, but specifically, it's about focal dystonia, and it's about all of the different avenues and crossroads that this has brought into my life, and I wanted to make this essentially to share my story for a lot of different people and for a lot of different reasons, and so primarily I wanted, because I am a what I've dubbed, I guess, a Dystonian. Um, this is a gift to my fellow Dystonians, because um, other videos similar to these have been gifts to me. We feel isolated a lot of times, right? And a lot of times, you read research articles and such, and you can fall into something that is not good. But the truth is once I started hearing people's personal testimonies and personal stories, and noticed improvements, and noticed that there are even people that have been healed from this, and those are the stories that actually help the person. And so this is just another one of those, another tool, another um, column to lean on, so that you know that you're not alone, and you know that you can get through this. And this is also for music students and pro musicians, um, for a lot of different reasons. Again, education wise, you can avoid this completely. I believe, if I had known that there were certain triggers and certain, things related to, whether they be personality or just ideas or notions, you can avoid situations where you can get yourselves into this type of thing. Um, you hear about all of these, different playing injuries, but you never hear about focal dystonia. I've been a musician, for the majority of my life now, and I have never heard of this. What is it? What is focal dystonia? This alien disease that just trots on your life and completely ruins the sense of who you think you are. You know, um, who would want to go through something like that if you can avoid it? So this is also for music students and pro musicians, and also pro musicians because typically you're going to be of the age um, where this is more likely to onset, which is like after 30. Um, this might help you to empathize. It might help you to empathize with fellow musicians that are going through something like dystonia, focal dystonia, or another type of playing injury. But let me just tell you, focal dystonia puts that musician in a very bad place uh, internally, and they're going through a lot. They don't understand what's happening to them. They understand that it's invisible to everybody else, and they feel crazy already. So the last thing that a pro musician can tell somebody, if they actually get the guts to speak up about it, is to say that it's all in your head. That's the worst thing you can, because they already feel crazy to begin with, but it's yet so real to them, and then they get told that, and then it just shoots them down more into the hole of being isolated and alone, which is not where anybody should be. um, because that just makes recovery that much harder. The hole is that much deeper to dig out of, especially, you like I said, you're doing it on your own. You feel like you're already doing it on your own. And so this hopefully will help you to dive into the life of somebody that goes through focal dystonia on a daily basis, and not just on his own, in his recovery room or practice room, recovery room, right? But to somebody who's actually still doing this every single day. Okay, and dystonia patients, hopefully, you can cling on to that too. Is I'm still actively performing. Okay, I'm still actively performing, and I'm trying to go through this whole recovery process as well. So there is always room for hope. Always room for hope. And like I said, pro musicians, hopefully this will help you to empathize with your fellow musicians who may be going through this. Okay. And then this is also for the curious, right? The scientists, the researchers, the doctors, neurologists, all those. If your intent is to truly help, then hopefully you would spend time looking at these personal stories of people, not just your experiments, not just your surveys, but actually listen to the stories of these people like me, um, and look at why. Okay, these people that have recovered, okay, or these people that have improved. How are they doing that? What is going on in their brains? What are they? How is that happening? You know, if you happen to help somebody because you give them, some seizure medication, and it just happens to be the one that just works on them, you know, that's great. But I can guarantee you that that's probably, first of all, this isn't very common for you to get this in your office. I know that already, you know, but, much less is that going to be a chance of actually helping them. So hopefully your intent is to truly help them as opposed to just diagnose them and then get some money out of them, through medicating and Botox injections and all that kind of stuff. All right. There's nothing against that. I hope that is actually you are actually trying to help people by doing that. But I can guarantee you, I've never heard anybody claim that any of that stuff is a permanent fix for anything. And so if you know that there are stories of people that are improving or that have cured themselves or that have put their symptoms in remission or whatever you want to call that, I hope that these stories interest you. And I hope that my story will interest you as well, because I find some amazing things, and it's all, like I said, from a crossroads of different avenues of my life. What does neuroplasticity actually mean? All of those kind of things. So hopefully, scientists, you all will find some interest in this as well. And is also, like I was talking to the pro musicians before, help you empathize with your patients too. And then also for people of faith, people looking for faith, people going through a hard time in your lives. Hopefully, this will provide a net, a cushion. Again, just like the dystonia patients, you can be involved in this kind of group as well. These stories are meant to inspire. And these stories are meant to help you to be a better person and help you cling on, and just know that, going through this, I just want to say this up front, this series is approached through the eyes of somebody who has faith, okay? And with those, I guess the reason why I'm telling you that is because that is what ties this entire story together, okay? Because if you believe in an all-loving God and an all-loving Creator, then there are certain certainties that are there all the time. Okay, there are certain objective truths that are there all the time, and if those are in place, then that means that you can heal. That means that it is possible, and that means that you will if you continue. Okay, and so that's the purpose of this series. So now let's get into what dystonia is and what focal dystonia is. All right, everybody, welcome to the second segment of the first episode of Letting Go. Okay, so the question at hand: what is dystonia and focal dystonia? I did not know this even existed 2 years ago. So it was like this, like I said before, I think I referred to it as this alien disease that just, totally tramples on your entire life and ego and sense of self. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible thing, and it's, and it's ugly. Okay. And so, but let's go to a more scientific definition, clearer than just this horrible alien disease. So, typically we don't want to do too much research into a lot of the medical stuff, guys, because we cannot self-diagnose this and we cannot self-medicate for this, and it doesn't really help us to understand how hopeless things are written about us. Okay, so for those of you who are new to dystonia, I found an article I think it's simple enough for the layman to understand. It's just pretty dry, and it's not as depressing as like so many that I've read. And it's all you need to know about it. And then from there on, you can just try and you can look for other points that are more hopeful. Okay, and I will definitely give links to those, and I'll be sharing who those people are, that have these hopeful stories. So that way you're not just stuck with a bunch of scientific experiments that lead you to just the same place that you are right now. Okay, but this one is actually it's good. Medical news today, and it's a medically reviewed article. So this is not just some schmo like me talking about what focal dystonia is. But they're coming from it again from the research end of it. This is reviewed by Deborah Witherspoon, PhD, and it's written by Cy Kraft. And this dystonia is pretty. This definition of dystonia is pretty good. Focal dystonia is a rare condition. Got a message. Focal dystonia is a rare condition, which people sometimes refer to as the yips. It is a neurological disorder that involves involuntary spasms in small muscles in the body. It can result from overuse or repetitive stress and tends to affect musicians and golfers. Okay, so that's a pretty good, just short definition of what it is. If you're familiar with sports, depending how into the sports you are, you've probably heard of the yips. And of course, it affects more than golfers. It affects baseball players and whatnot. But it affects. It's a neurological condition, and it causes these spasms in the small muscle parts, small muscles. In my case, the hand here. So it says here later on, the disorder can affect the hands, causing the fingers to curl into the palm, or extend outward without control. Okay, so this speaks directly to me. Okay, so I have focal hand dystonia. Okay, and so. So what happens when I really get into playing, when I'm really in, like, when the it's not necessarily, I'm not stressed out when I play, but when obviously once you get into the song and notes have to be played at specific times, I have no control over it. My brain is telling my hand to play like how I've played my entire life, but yet my hand, this muscle right here, tenses up, and this muscle right here, and it curls these fingers in. And obviously, when you squeeze something, you're a lot stronger squeezing something than pulling back. So the extensor muscles don't have the strength to pull back, and so I'm kind of stuck in this position like this. You see when I play. Okay? And so it's very difficult when the song gets going. It feels like there's kind of a delay, and that these are weak. And even when I put my finger down, what'll happen is that my pinky will come in if my third finger's down, and then it's like I can't take it off. So I almost have to like peel it off. Okay? At least at the very beginning, that's how it was. So what ends up happening, now it says here, or extend outward without control. What they're talking about there, and I don't think they really, really know, because they're thinking that that's part of the dystonia. It's not. This is totally under our control. But what that is, when we flare our hands like that, it's compensation. It's a compensation. It's trying to make up for the fact that this finger won't move. So what we're doing is we're resetting everything. And so we're having to play with with everything that's around, because these muscles don't work. So all of that is compensation. All of that is just trying to get around the problem. And we're doing it like that because our brains are super efficient. Okay? So it's almost like there's this tangle that's just affecting this part, and all the rest of your movements are based around trying to just go around that problem, because your brain is actually being extremely efficient. And you actually get better at it over time, to tell you the truth. So, and that's one of the things that doctors will tell you. Well, my first neurologist that diagnosed it said, you're done. Start looking for a new job. And, the more I went on, of course that destroyed me inside, but the more I went on, the more I realized that, no, that's not entirely true. And I've seen people continue on their entire careers. playing, and I'll talk about some of these stories that have inspired me, like I said in later episodes. Um, but they have continued on in their work, and nothing has changed about the artistry that's inside of your head and the talent and the knowledge and experience that's in here. Um, so now it's just about, okay, how do I how do I fix this little issue and still, in my case, because I still play every day, still work around it. Okay, and it's one of those things that's just like, it's that's just my situation. I cannot not play. Not necessarily because it's my passion, but it's how I feed my family. And and if you have the opportunity to do this, to take a break from public performance, I think that our journey together is going to really be beneficial to you. I really do. I really do. So let's continue on with this article about what dystonia is. So you know how it affects me now. And it's called focal because it's in that one area of the body. And but it can affect really any area. Cervical dystonia affects the neck. Foot dystonia, vocal dystonia, a lot of times referred to as dysphonia. Um, and the thing about this is that the repetitive use of the muscles may lead to trembling and cramping pains. That's a direct quote, and that is true, because um, up until, I want to say, for about a year and a half, I was playing, and every single day my arm would just be exhausted, because you're basically playing with a seizure. That's what it is. It's just a spasm, continuous spasm as you play. So you're not only just spasming here the whole day from this side and from this side, but then you're doing all these other things, trying to get around that. And so think about it this way. When you do a bicep curl, okay, this muscle, right, your bicep squeezes, and then your tricep extends, right? And then when you go back the other way, this one squeezes and this one extends. So now try squeeze both and then try and do a bicep curl, and that's pretty much what dystonia is, okay? So your opposing muscle groups on this side and this side are just, they're like that, okay? So it sucks. It sucks. Anyway, but it can disturb a lot in your personal life. It makes you exhausted. Of course, you have mood swings because it's affecting you personally. Destroy my sense of who I am. It's because it affected this. It's because it affected this. Okay? And that is where the faith aspect of this comes in, because as performers, we grow up in front of an audience. And the thing is that our sense of self gets distorted because we think that our sense of self has to do with how people think about us. And as much as we want to say, oh, I don't care what people think about me. Yeah, right, dude. You're a performer. Of course you do. That's your gig. So, this is good. Dystonia is good in this sense, is that you have to take advantage of what it does. It gives you a clean slate. Okay. And honestly, you'll be a better performer because of it, to tell you the truth. Okay. But while you're going through the dark stuff, fellow musicians, be aware. It's very stressful. Dystonians have to rediscover who they are as a person, and they have to go through let go. They have to let go of who they were, and difficult. Let me see. So there's a lot of times difficulty concentrating. Digestive problems, short temper. What came first, the chicken or the egg, the horse or the cart? By that point, when it's visible that they're just not good, it doesn't matter anymore. And it's as their colleague, definitely be there for them. Okay, this can be hereditary. It cannot be, but there are personality traits that they say: perfectionism, diligent in their work, repetitiveness, all that kind of thing. My thing, I just loved playing so much. So I would literally perform, and then I would just play other stuff, and then I perform, and then I play. But see, I was approaching it different, even though I didn't realize it. All of my practice habits were good. I warmed up, I did all that kind of thing. But I had no other outlet. It was only music. That was it. It was just that. And I'm not saying that that's bad, but Um, you know, it's a good thing that this thing is rare, or else, I mean, geez, it's one of those things. How many people could it affect? You know, but it was just, like I said, my practice habits were good. Other than I probably should have taken more breaks. But you become too attached, and this is really about detaching, okay? And it's healthy to detach. It is very healthy to detach. All right, and again, that's where the faith thing comes in, and I'll tie that in later on. Um, and of course, this happens to people who perform high precision hand movements, such as musicians, engineers, architects, artists, uh, court reporters, all that kind of thing. A lot of times it's talked about writer's cramp. They'll say same thing kind of happens. Pianists get the same thing. And then other risk factors include anxiety, of course, all those things. Um, and that's really what dystonia is. It just affects all of those aspects. And when you're looking at how to get this diagnosed, if you're new to it, you got to go through the whole circuit. It's a pain in the butt, but it is what it is. But eventually you should end up getting an EMG, and they'll tell you whether or not everything is functioning fine. If everything's functioning fine, that's when it's going to be like, "Ugh, okay, it's probably dystonia." Because if you have no pain, if you have nothing else, or if they find irregularities, that means that you could have some sort of muscle entrap or nerve entrapment in one of the canals here in your wrist or in your elbow or in your shoulder. Um, then you can solve that problem medically a lot easier. But if everything else is normal and the rest of your life is completely normal, like I said, this is the invisible alien disease or disorder, rather. Um, it's the EMG is going to come out normal. You'll probably have a good idea, and then at that point, it's good to go. If it wasn't the neurologist that gave you the EMG, then at that point, it's time to go to the neurologist and get a formal diagnosis so that you can approach it, in your ways. So whether that means, um, there's Botox. That never interested me. Deep brain stimulation, cutting into my head, that did not interest in me because I'm not going to die from this, and I should count my blessings on that. Because there are worse movement disorders, that just chip at you little by little by little, and dystonia can be one of those if you let it, but you don't have to let it. So take my advice on that. There's other medications and stuff. There's seizure medications, other things like that you can try. There's nothing wrong with trying. I tried them. But if you are going through depression, get on an antidepressant. Do it. If you don't have anybody to advocate for you, advocate for yourself, and just ask your doctor about it, because that will help you to balance out the chemical reactions that are going through here. If you need to get a diagnosis for that, then go out and get a diagnosis for that. But you need to balance this out, and a lot of times the neurologist might even be able to recommend that to you as well if he diagnosed you with dystonia. So again, help yourself out in that regard, and help yourself get out through those humps, okay? And as far as what dystonia actually is and focal dystonia, that's pretty much all you need to know to understand what this series is all about, and that's exactly what I'm going to get into in this third segment. Stay tuned. All right, thank you guys for watching the first episode of Letting Go. And so in this final segment, I just wanted to talk about what is letting go. What is this, not just this series, but what is this all about, letting go? It is a way of thinking, a way of living, a way of playing, and a recovery method. It's a mantra, essentially, letting go. And and for a lot of different reasons, okay? How do we get ourselves into focal dystonia? That is such a difficult question to answer. And it's one that's worth going into and not worth going into. And what I mean by that is you can go into it through certain avenues and it be productive, and then you can go through it in other avenues and it won't be productive whatsoever. I have done both. And again, every Dystonian has to go through their own journey. But there was always help along the way with videos like these, like I was mentioning before. And so, as far as the scientific research and all of that kind of thing, that didn't help me too much other than just knock me further down the hole. But maybe in my journey, I had to do that. Okay? I don't know what it's going to be like for your journey. But what I can say is that I have seen cases where people are healed. I have been to a few different professionals that have helped me along the way, and I have met certain people. I guess I would consider them now colleagues in this ministry, so to speak, in speaking to people with dystonia and also educating those outside that don't have it, that have also helped me. And so this is a way of thinking at first. And this came to me all because in a practice session, okay, which now I actually call recovery session. So if you ever hear me refer to a recovery session, I'm practicing. But I practice a lot different than what I used to. I don't practice really etudes anymore or that kind of thing, or I don't practice for agility and all that kind of stuff. If anything, maybe just for my bow hand. If I'm practicing my left hand, it's all recovery. It's all recovery. And my practice sessions are literally just minutes at a time, And so I was in a recovery session, completely alone, no stressors. I was on a break, and I had more than ample time to do what I had to do. And then it came to me. I said, you know what? Can I just let go? In my entire 2 years of dealing with focal dystonia, I never once asked myself that question. Can I just let go? And so what does that mean? So I was playing, okay? I was playing, and all the time I'm just like, just trying to work that muscle and work this muscle and work that muscle and, that kind of thing. Or just completely ignore and that sort of thing. And then it was through the help of, and again, I'm going to leave names out for this first episode, and then I'll get to a lot of the people that helped me out. But through one therapist that was helping me through the symptoms and kind of all the traits that kind of happen with focal dystonia. You get to a centered place, and you have to just kind of be aware of everything and nothing at the same time. And so I would never have thought of this had I not been there. If I had just continued my stressed out approach of, I can solve it, I need to solve this, how do I solve this? That kind of thing. Or just like, I can't solve it. Any of that stuff is not going to get you through. You need to get yourself to a place that is centered. Okay. And that only happens with time. And so what I would say to my fellow Dystonians, just give yourselves time. Grieve, definitely. Grieve yourself. But as you're going through it, look at the positive things. Always look at the positive things. Look at the hopeful stories, and this is where the faith comes in. The faith, your faith in God is going to be, I don't want to say a crutch because it's so much more important than that, but it's a realization. It's a realization that you are more important than your playing. You are more important than this disorder. And so you need to use this, okay? And I don't want to get distracted, and I'll go more into the faith part again in future episodes. But so I'm in this place now. I'm such a different person than who I was. Completely different person than who I was before. I'm a better dad. I'm a better husband. I'm a better man. And it's just, I'm free. And once you can get yourself to that place, then you get clarity. And with clarity starts to come your recovery. I'll say it again. With your clarity starts to come your recovery. Okay? My hand, this is how I would put it. Okay, and like I said before, I would just work the muscles. Okay. But then I asked myself, can I just let go of the violin? So I just tried it. I let go. And you know what happened? My brain let go, but my hand didn't let go. It came up a little bit, and then this muscle right here, I could feel it ever so slowly just starting to release. For about 5 to 7 seconds, more or less, it released. But my brain was already, I'm done. You see, that's a problem. That's a problem. It took me 2 years to ask myself the question that got me to realize that in the most non-stressful way of playing, even still, it took me my hand that long to release. If that's the case there, forget any sort of recovery. That's got to be solved first. You see? And you can only get that from a clear mind. You can only get that from a clear mind. All right? So benefit off of my clear mind for those of my fellow Dystonians out there. I had another buddy of mine, that I just recently met. Excellent musician and such a good person. And he told me, you just got to find your thing, you know. And he found his thing. He told me what he did was, amongst many things, of course, he just completely changed his life around. Again, you have to use Dystonia like that. You have to completely change your life around. He started exercising. He started doing things for his health. But one of the things that he did was that he got on YouTube and found the longest tennis volley that he could find. And because those are slightly unpredictable, those volleys, he would just practice. He had embouchure dystonia, okay, on the trombone. And he told me that he would make a note and try and just go with it. Not trying to anticipate too much, just, they'd hit it, he'd make a note, hit, make a note, hit, make a note. That was his thing. He said, you just have to find your thing. And when you find your thing, I can't remember if that was the word that he used, but it was something like that. Find your, you're going to find that little niche, that little lock. And it's like, okay, and this was it. For me, this just happened to be it. And it might be yours too. And then from there, I was like, okay, well, letting go, that's a lot of different things. Because what has Dystonia been about for me other than just literally letting go? I've had to let go of who I was. I've had to let go of who the musician I was. Let go of the man that I was, the dad that I was, the husband that I was, the person that I was. And I had to actually find out who I actually am. You see? And again, that only happens with clarity. Okay? And so I was just in shock, I did it again, and it got a little bit shorter, but there was definitely that delay. And I was like, whoa. So that's got to be solved first. All right? So, as just a little teaser on as far as exercises, because I will get into exercises later on. Okay? You can do this with a bow or without a bow, but just practice letting go. So squeeze down. You don't have to, torture your violin, or choke it. But just it doesn't matter the finger pattern. It doesn't matter if it's an in tune fourth finger or not. That doesn't matter, okay? But can you just put the even pressure on all the strings, and then just let go of your hand. And if you want to do it with a bow, do it with a bow. Okay, I'm not lifting my fingers. I'm literally just releasing the pressure and just letting go. That's it. And like I said, intonation doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters, especially when you get into further exercises that I'll take you through that involve lifting, other fingers at a time, and you're like, whoa, that's not in tune with itself. It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter right now. Okay? It's just getting comfortable with normal movement, because you haven't been moving normal for however long you've had this. Okay? And you might feel some stuff going on here. That's okay. That is absolutely okay. But it will lessen and decrease and decrease. And again, this is coming from somebody who plays every 5 days a week, multiple shows a day. All right? And the more I do this, the more I'm able to implement even just a minute or so on the stage. You see, and that is huge. That's a huge thing, to be able to implement it on a stage when you have all of a sudden now an audience and the other normal stressors that don't ruin. I mean, I don't mean that you get stressed out from them, but they're stressors. You've got to perform a certain note at a certain time, at a certain volume, in a certain pitch range, and those are all normal stressors that musicians go through. Nevertheless, they're there, and I'm able to actually apply this letting go more often. And now I've been able to do things that I haven't been able to do in such a long time, but with absolutely no force, no stress on my muscles. And even in a recovery session, I used to, get tired out of them because it was just like I was forcing, but now nothing feels forced. See, that used to feel not normal to me, and now it feels normal. And then, again, keep in mind, if you're a Dystonian, your recovery is not going to be a straight shot up. It's going to be like that. So you're going to have days where things were like, oh, okay. But I guarantee you, you're not going to have the huge dives. I was just having huge dives until I found letting go. All right? So it's very exciting. It's like I was saying, this is a recovery method, but not only that, this is something that I'm starting to implement with my students. Why not? We're always so concentrated on getting the note down, but we're never concentrating. We never spend, not necessarily that we have to concentrate on it, but we never spend time. Where's your mindset as far as the release? How stressed are you all the time when you play? You understand what I mean? Are you stressed out to the point where you have to do that? Or do you play with the perfect combination of forceful energy and then just releasing of the energy, forceful energy or releasing of the energy, as opposed to major force and then to get it up, major force? Does that make sense? And so that's where you kind of have to think about this. And it all comes from a place of peace. It all comes from a place of clarity. And then that is what helps you, because there's nothing that gains your strength more than being in a vulnerable position and with potential failure and then failing. But you just have to not stop at the failure. Does that make sense? So, you would think, oh, well, the challenge and then the potential failure and then the success, that would be making me stronger. No, it's the failure and then continuing. And then that failure maybe happens a couple times. I don't know. But if you continue to get up, then it's never the end. You see, I guess that's what I mean. So that's really what this all comes out to. But the more you the more you just get up and you continue to get up, the more you continue to get up, eventually you just forget about it all, and then you don't even realize that you're not at that same point that you were 2 months ago. And you realize, whoa, I've come a long way, And I would imagine that this would like I said, not just help those people with dystonia, but also help just as a playing mantra in general. Imagine how many disorders you could avoid, or playing injuries you could avoid, just from learning how to release correctly, And so that's what really this is about. like I was saying before, a way of thinking, a way of living, a playing method, a recovery method, all of this stuff ties together into becoming not just a better musician. The world doesn't need better musicians. The world needs better people, and this can help make yourself a better person. And then, because you are a better person, because you have found that point of balance and clarity, you will become a way better musician. The musician that you always really thought you could be, wanted to be. You know why? Because God loves you. That's why. Because he loves you. But you have to accept the trial, because it is he who has faith in you to carry that cross to the point of success, to carry that cross across the finish line, to carry that cross to your own personal resurrection, so to speak. You can make it. You can make it. And you will have successes along the way. You will have falls along the way. But, once, like I said, once you look back at how far you've come and you realize, wow, so many of the things in my life are so much better now. This is your opportunity. Focal dystonia is your opportunity. Don't make it happen. Let it happen. So, here's a little activity for those of you who don't have focal dystonia. Okay, you can get a rubber band, all right, and you can just put it around your palm, just like that. Okay, and it doesn't have to be very tight. In fact, I wouldn't recommend very tight right away, because you just want to get an idea of how this actually sort of feels. Okay, and then you're just gonna curl your ring finger and your pinky underneath that rubber band so that they're kind of just stuck there. Now, keep in mind that this rubber band is mimicking the pull from these muscles here. So this is actually a lot weaker than the real pull from these muscles. Okay, but it at least gives you the sense of not having the mobility in that finger. And then just try and play. Just try and play like that. And then you could realize, oh wow, that is not fun whatsoever. So then you start to realize, if you can keep the rubber band on, you start to realize, okay, well, try certain movements, and then, what do you end up doing to try and make that happen? Well, then you start compensating, and so that's what you'll see me do a lot when I play, which is like I was saying before. I think is that the brain is trying to fix it, The brain is amazing, and so the brain will try and work around the hole in information that is existing here. So it deems these unusable, so then it's now working totally around that. So then the idea is then this, we have to work on what's causing this issue right here, which could be anywhere, and all dystonias are different. We know it starts here, but there could be a lot of different things that are influencing that. So, but that's at least a nice little exercise. nice little exercise, informative exercise on what a pain that is. And of course, if you try and put yourself in the mindset of, wow, okay, this is indefinite, meaning you don't know if or when this is gonna stop. You can realize then how impactful that would be to somebody who has this. Okay, so at least that's a little empathetical exercise for those of you who are still have that ability. Okay, so try it at home. See what you think. You probably won't like it. You probably are not going to take your rubber band to your next gig and play like that. So, but at least hopefully that'll help you empathize. So, thank you for giving that its patience and due diligence. Thanks. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Letting Go. And of course, I thank you for your support through this journey of Focal Dystonia. And please like and subscribe, and of course, share the message. And stay tuned for future episodes, methods, lessons, and thoughts. We'll see you soon. God bless.